What's up guys, if you're here it's because you're interested in Sandrone. So, where shall we stand in the meta when she's released, what her best teams are, and what her future could look like. I've made a lot of Sandrone's videos already, but I still see plenty of people confused throughout the community. Obviously that's because they haven't found this channel yet. Remember, I stream on Kick every Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday, where we're usually ahead of the YouTube content, maybe a little too far ahead sometimes. Now let's talk about Sandrone. For those who aren't up to date, when she released, she will not be meta. Yes, you hear that right. She will not be among the strongest teams in the game. Now, before people start clipping that sentence out of context, let me clarify something. Sandrone herself deals an absurd amount of personal DPS. In fact, she currently has the highest baseline DPS in the game. So what does that mean? It means Sandrone has the highest future potential of any DPS character right now. Future potential for what? Well, for the development of stellar superconduct teams. The reaction has barely begun receiving support. As more characters built around stellar superconduct are released, Sandrone will only get stronger. Look at how powerful Flins and Nefer are today. Before Columbina released, they weren't nearly as impressive. Or look at Varka's situation. There was a clear before and after. The same thing applies to Sandrone. You can't properly judge a character when their archetype is still incomplete. What we do know is that Jaimiko is extremely good with Sandrone. I'm putting several Sandrone plus Jaimiko's Constellation 1 teams on screen right now. These are teams I have been calculating and refining over time up to the current version. You can see their DPS number, and aside from Nicole and Scofia variation, this represents the strongest Sandrone teams currently available in version 6.7. And I do need to correct something from one of my previous videos. After adding testing, Titi and Beidou actually make up her strongest team at the moment, not Sucrose. Jaimiko is so valuable because of her consistent electro application and the amount of stellar conduct damage she contributes. Is Jaimiko a must pull for Sandrone? Right now, yes, she contributes way too much to ignore. And remember, her Constellation 1 is effectively free thanks to the permanent Constellation event. Of course, you still need to own Jaimiko first. Now here's the interesting part. Even if we eventually get another 5-star Electro support DPS designed around stellar conduct, that character will most likely replace Titi or Beidou in Sandrone's current best team. Or if you don't own Jaimiko, then that future character could become your alternative option for Sandrone. But I don't see that character replacing Jaimiko herself. That's why I think it's a must pull. More likely, both characters will end up playing alongside Sandrone and pushing the team DPS even higher than what I've shown here. And if you're planning to pull for Sandrone but you don't have Jaimiko, you can still use Sucrose. But just keep in mind that your team DPS will be lower than the numbers shown on screen. And let's not forget where the current meta stands. The 3 lunar teams and Varka team currently sits around 144k to 158k DPS. Sandrone isn't there yet, but in the future, that's where things get interesting. Let's continue with that idea. Disclaimer: everything from this point onward is speculation based on current trends and available information. Let's imagine we get a future cryo or electro support DPS. Either element will work perfectly as long as it's a 5-star character. As I mentioned earlier, the goal will be replacing a character and or supporting Jaimiko alongside Sandrone. So what would we expect from this character? Maybe something similar to Jaimiko's high personal damage and a little utility, or maybe something closer to Scofia or Inefa, a character that strengthens their reaction archetype while also providing damage and survivability. Honestly, either option will be fantastic for Sandrone. Depending on the kit, this character could potentially replace either Titsi or Beidou. First of all, if we are talking about a future 5-star character, I will absolutely expect them to provide up to roughly 14% additional base stellar conduct damage. I'm saying that based on trends we already seen with characters like Flint's Inefa, Tseva Linnea, right? You get it. Beyond that, there are really two possibilities. High DPS, low support and survivability, low DPS, high support and survivability. And naturally, when we talk about DPS here, we are expecting stellar conduct damage from this character. Let's imagine something similar to Inefa. Not an overpowered version, let's keep it realistic. Suppose this character provides up to 14% additional base stellar conduct damage, survivability, around 18k in personal DPS, which is okay for a 5-star character, roughly 40% stellar conduct damage bonus for the entire team. In this scenario, she could realistically replace either Beidou or Titi. Maybe Beidou. Replacing Beidou wouldn't affect stellar conduct zone charges because Beidou herself doesn't contribute to stellar conduct damage. Okay, I won't go into details today. Honestly, I should probably make an entire short video explaining how stellar conduct zones work. Maybe you didn't catch the charges stuff. Yeah, the point is that this hypothetical character could probably contribute just under 30k total DPS once all bonuses are factored in. I'm putting a rough sample on screen so you can visualize it. That will place Sandrone teams slightly above 160k DPS while still maintaining the decent personal damage, survivability, and the extremely important 14% base stellar conduct increase. Of course, maybe this future character ends up dealing less damage than that. We simply don't know yet. Based on current trends and my own experience, I will expect Sandrone teams to land somewhere between 155k and 160k DPS by version 7.0. At that point, she will likely become the highest DPS characters in the game. I mean, in team. One more thing, if the future character replaces Titsi instead of Beidou, I wouldn't expect 160k DPS, but something closer to 151k or 152k. Now, if these future characters also reduce both electro and cryo resistance, well, that could change everything. I mean, more DPS, but at this point we are getting way too deep into speculation. And if the cryo archon ends up being an amazing stellar conduct character, then honestly I could easily see Sandrone teams reaching 175 to 180k DPS. Hopefully all of this information was useful to you, at least the present part. I'll keep making Sandrone's videos and her legendary guide should be coming before her release. Thank you for your time and I will see you in the next one.